Hello and welcome to this edition of Crossover. I'm Ji Xiaojun with Stella and Dominic.
Great to be
here. Welcome again to Stella, actually, because it's been quite a while since last time you were here.
Yeah.
I'm just on the back of a trip to Harbin, and I wanted to...
How was it?
Fantastic. I just wanted to say hello to everybody from the Gongchang University in Harbin who are big crossover fans.
Right.
I was absolutely mobbed when I was there. Everyone's asking lots of questions about you.
And crossover. And crossover.
You had lots of fans in Harbin.
Okay.
So hello to everyone in Harbin Gongchang University.
So that means I should manage to go to Gongchang University or the University of Engineering.
You must go.
In Harbin.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Anyway, now let's talk about the future of all these students who are now studying in that university, because I mean, you both have worked for many years. So do you have in your mind, you know, a picture of the best jobs and the worst jobs? Let's start with, say, the worst ones. Do you have any worst list?
I can remember probably the worst job I had in China was as a translator, which is a terrible job being a translator.
I think translator is a very good job because they earn a lot of money.
So what is the criteria? And what is good? What is good?
Why it's not good?
What is bad?
About being a translator?
No, I mean, why don't you?
Okay.
Stella thinks being a translator
because they earn a lot of money.
Job.
Yeah, well, in this case, I was translating for 2 Irish guys in Inner Mongolia. We had to ride horses to work.
So it's from Mongolian to...
No, it was from Chinese. It was Inner Mongolia, so it was Inner Mongolia. Right. So it was Chinese to English, but the Irish guys loved to drink. The local Inner Mongolian Chinese loved to drink. A lot of fighting going on, and I was stuck in the middle, translating as they were getting...
No, what I'm asking is, I mean, how do you judge what job is good or bad?
I think it depends on what your passions are. I always encourage people, and as I was talking at the university last week, is to try and find something you're passionate about, because then it doesn't feel like a job. Then you wake up in the morning and you think, great, I love doing this, you know, and that's how I feel about my business as well, you know. I mean, for me, if I was to be honest, I would say there's nothing better than being an entrepreneur and having your own business. But that's not suited to everybody. But for myself, I would say I love being an entrepreneur.
Stella, your worst job? No, not your personal experience, but what you have in mind.
Fireman.
Fireman?
It's too dangerous.
Oh, that's an awesome job. I would love to be a fireman.
That's interesting.
See, it's so different.
Women
that's
love
the difference
firemen
between
as well.
women and men.
Really?
See, it's too dangerous to me, and also the policemen.
Okay,
too dangerous.
Right.
Especially, you know, those who are against the traffickers.
Okay, so once again, what are your criteria and to judge what jobs are good ones?
I don't like the jobs that are dangerous. And also earn very little money.
So financial conditions,
and also too much stress. And also always need to work overtime and lots of travel.
That's exactly what you're doing now. In PR industry, right?
Yeah, you're in PR. You must be working
I hate it. I envy you. I think your job is a very good
I'm
one.
working extra hours all the time.
Really?
I had to start actually 8:30 or sometimes even early today.
And now it's 3 a.m.
Now, I guess, and this is very personal, and different people will have different answers to that question, but what we are going to talk about is actually a little survey done by one of these employment websites in the US, and they have actually produced a list of 10 worst jobs and 10 best jobs.
This is in the United States.
That's in the United States. Is career cost. Well, that is a promotion to your website.
Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at let's start with the worst jobs first. And see whether you agree or not, or whether that will be a true picture, say, with these occupations in China. The 10 worst jobs. Broadcaster. I'll start from the top. It will be...
Hang on.
That's me. That's me. I know. But let's put it in the last. Let's start from the top. Lumberjack.
So cutting down trees.
Yes. And dairy farmer.
Right.
Enlisted military personnel. That falls into your category.
Yeah, too dangerous.
Right? Oil rig worker.
Oh, that would be awful.
Newspaper reporter.
I don't agree with that.
Waiter and waitress, or waitress. Meter reader. Dishwasher.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Butcher. And broadcaster.
So hang on, this is number 200 to 191.
So the worst is actually, and according to their category, is the lumberjack.
Yeah, you know what, as a guy I would really disagree with that. There's nothing like having work that takes you outdoors, that's physical, and you really get into it. You know, I've had a few jobs working on farms and stuff like that, and also cutting down trees. I really enjoyed it because you really concentrate on the job. It's quite a simple job. A lumberjack, I'm sure there's many technical ways of doing it, but I love those kind of simple jobs where you're soaring,
But
you're
the thing
digging.
is that when
It's very boring.
Really?
You do
Find-
nothing.
Yeah, but for
except
me,
this.
I get to focus on something really simple. For a guy, it's quite appealing, actually. I don't know about
okay.
you, but for me, a lumberjack, I wouldn't mind that.
I'm not quite sure whether I would like this idea or not. I mean, it's basically, it could be boring, and if you have to repeat it all the time. You know what? My parents are both teachers. They are now retired. And when I was little, I had made up my mind. I would not be a teacher when I grew up. I would do some teaching as a volunteer, but as a profession, I won't choose to be a teacher. Because I just don't want to repeat myself all the time. Because as a teacher, you might be teaching different classes.
But as a
it will be
teacher-
the same content.
But at least you have the communication with people. But as a
lumberjack.
okay, you cannot communicate with anyone.
With the tree.
the
With the
trees.
birds.
You know, I think with all these jobs, it's all very down to the individual, isn't it? There's a lot
Yeah.
of people who love doing that kind of stuff. There really are. You know, for me, I couldn't think anything worse than being in an office. You know, with a cubicle and all the politics that goes with it. You know, I've done an office job once in my life. It was probably the most miserable moment of my life. You walk into an elevator like a robot with everybody else. You get spat
Yeah,
out.
we do that every day.
Oh, me, you know what? I am a business owner. I spend very little time in the office. I really don't like it. I like to be
We
out.
spend at least 10 hours per day in the office.
Working extra hours.
You do.
Yeah.
You see
do
that?
it every day.
I
But
couldn't
what about lumberjack in China? Because
China,
we are not that familiar with this actually job in
A tree
in China.
surgeon,
Yeah,
maybe?
it could be say in northeast China where we have that large area of forests, and that might be a busy job in there. But other than that, we need to plant trees, not cut trees. these
Yes.
days.
as they are in Qingdao right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stella, what about dairy farmer?
no interest.
I'm not asking you personal interest. I'm talking about this, this job, say, in China. Do you think this is a bad job in
Probably
China?
it's very similar to a farmer.
It's not a big industry. Well, it is.
It's
getting bigger.
massive in China now, and of
Okay.
course, and it's got a lot of problems, with
Yeah,
scandals and
they
things
are the
like that.
suppliers to those milk, big milk producer.
Yeah. We had a lot of scandals, with contaminated milk. in
Yeah,
China.
they are adding something into the milk.
That's right, chemicals to give it more protein and things like that. But you know what? I would say a dairy farm would be pretty rotten because you're artificially inseminating female cows so they stay pregnant and then you milk them. For me, that's no dream
But
job.
that's not about this dairy farm. Okay,
That's what they
dairy
do.
farm is what
Yeah.
they. Yeah, but I guess this is a slightly different situation because basically we're maybe in the United States we're talking about these large dairy farms. Well, these days in China we are still talking about this small units of small farms that you may own. A few cows, but not those large-scale dairy farms.
Not a dream job, for sure.
Enlisted military personnel?
Yeah, that's my nightmare job. Where you have to.
You've been there?
No,
been
I
a
mean,
soldier
at
before?
my school, we were forced to go into the army, and I refused, and I got in lots of trouble. But it's. I'm not the sort of person that can, be disciplined. So military would not appeal to me, and also I don't like the idea of fighting. So.
So, and
Me
that
too.
was also
yeah, I completely agree with him.
it's different from different perspective, but it was not a good job to
I
you
don't
as well.
like to be disciplined, and also, it's very dangerous.
But these days, I mean, to be enlisted in the army, it's very much a choice for lots of young people these days in China. Because sometimes when they graduate from the universities, they will also choose to go to the army
That's
after
right.
graduation.
Yeah, actually, in the engineering university in Harbin, where I just came from, a lot of army there, a lot. And they have special blocks which are for the students who are going into the army. And the army pay for all of their studies, and they choose the best students, and then they go straight from university into the army for like 4 or 5 years. So it can be good.
Well, what are the reasons for those decisions for these young people?
I think maybe it's not very easy for them to get a job nowadays. So maybe go to the military is also a choice, so they can get a stable job.
Yeah, to get a job is one of the possible reasons. The other reason I think could be, this is also a personal training experience because, because these days you're not living in the city. You're so used to all these comfortable environment, all these conditions supported by your family, by your parents. Well, sometimes, and because they live actually mostly in this one-child family environment, they don't really have that much experience of living together.
That's so true. That
Other
is so true.
fellow countrymen in a disciplined way.
Yeah, you know what? I have quite a large family. I have 4 kids. And they have lots of Chinese friends. And I have to say, it can be difficult when we have Chinese friends whose kids come to our house. They're just not used to sharing and not used to so many kids being around. And it can be a bit of a social challenge for them. So the army on that side, I guess, would be good training for your one child or your only child family. But also, you learn a lot of discipline. I mean, a lot of corporations love to employ people who come out of the army because they think, you know, they're very diligent, hardworking, they're disciplined, they're trained, you know, and and quite often in the army that you learn a lot of very technical skills.
And also maybe I think the military uniforms can be quite appealing to
Oh,
some
yes.
young people.
To ladies.
And also to ladies.
Especially to the ladies. And
Yeah.
They look gorgeous.
They love
in these
the uniforms.
It's the same with firemen, actually. Women love firemen as well.
All right. Now let's take a break first, and we are coming down to newspaper reporter and broadcaster soon. Worst jobs? I'm not quite sure. We'll be right back. You're watching Crossover. Welcome back to Crossover, and today we're talking about these best jobs or worst jobs. And for the first segment, we were talking about these worst jobs according to a little survey done by one of these employment websites in the US. And let's see whether their choices are the choices in the same category in Chinese context. So we've covered what about oil rig worker. I guess this is more about the working conditions.
Oh, yeah, it's very lonely out there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
very
in the
lonely.
middle of the sea.
Nothing except
But
the sea.
you love the job of lumberjack. It's still,
Lumberjack, you're out in the forest in the kind of...
still lonely though.
So you love the forest, you don't
You're
love
not
the
really.
sea.
I mean, you know, as a lumberjack, I'm sure while you're up the tree, yeah. But I mean, you've got your friends that you cut down trees with. You're in the forest. I mean, but on an oil rig,
Well,
you're-
this is not an appealing picture.
No.
this is miserable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be. And also, I know a lot of people in the oil industry that live in Beijing, and I have to say, most of them, I really don't like them. I have to stick my head out. And say that.
Are you complaining about the oil price or?
I'm complaining about people in the oil industry. They're,
Okay.
they're a strange bunch. Yeah, so I wouldn't want to be in the oil industry, especially on an oil platform out at sea. You know, you jog around a metal helicopter pad to stay
See.
fit.
And can be accidents. Yeah.
So you're still concerned about the security?
Yeah, the security,
Okay.
you know, you put your life at risk.
Newspaper reporter.
That's a good job in China. I
That's
know,
also-
Why do you
I know
say so?
very well about them.
Why do you say so?
It's also dangerous, huh?
It's not dangerous at all.
It can be very dangerous. being
Why?
a reporter.
Why is
No,
that?
Stella, you tell me why you think this is a good idea, a good job.
They don't need to do anything because
Come
there
on.
are,
What do you mean by that?
because there
kind
are
of
PR
reporter we got?
agencies
Okay.
who will feed them with the materials, so they only need to cut
That
and
is
paste,
pure evil.
Absolutely.
How can you say
and then
that?
they get paid.
That is not a reporter. That's
Are you
someone
talking
in PR.
about bribery or?
You're talking about PR right now. I'm like a proper, you know,
A
good
propaganda.
journalist.
Yeah.
Not someone who's distributing propaganda or lies or adverts, but
Because there
someone
are
who actually
lots of
reports on
brands,
the issues.
Because the brands, they need to do communication, promotion. So they need to work with media. So that's why media,
Okay,
they're
but
very
the
Media
important.
needs stories. I mean, that should be a
Yeah.
win-win
This is a
situation.
reporter, not an advertiser. It's very
A
different. You know,
reporter, I cannot make much difference between these two.
you've been in PR too long, I would say.
Yeah, I'll have to say that. And I
I
don't
mean,
know.
a good reporter looks for issues, digs them out,
Exactly.
and brings them to the surface and tells people about
That's
it.
the very small group of them.
Now,
Wow.
when,
But for the
when-
larger group,
Really?
I think they don't need to do that.
Well, I think that industry needs a lot of help then, if you ask me.
Now, just now you mentioned they get paid for what they do, maybe with the support from
They get the
agencies like
transportation
yourself.
allowance.
So that's transportation allowance. Is that
Yeah.
against the law or is it?
No, it's not against
It's
the law.
not.
I don't know, but I don't think there is any law against it. But anyway, this is the normal practice.
Are you also taking this opportunity to complain about?
No, not complain.
Because they might be still watching you.
So if you want to read about real news, which newspaper would you read? Like, staying away from the ones that are just...
People's Daily.
The People's Daily. Very good newspaper. There you go. Upstanding.
China Daily.
China Daily.
Daily.
Very
CCTV.
good.
Crossover.
Crossover certainly has the real issues.
Now here is a related job here, broadcaster. I'm not quite sure which part of broadcasting they're referring to. Are they
Does it mean a
referring
radio
to the
broadcaster?
anchors or radio broadcasters?
Anchors or hosts
Could be,
like
yeah,
you?
radio broadcasters. Because
maybe.
we're known as the anchors.
One thing you have to say about television is the hours are really long.
Working hours.
Yeah, the working
I mean,
hours.
we don't really have the concept of working extra hours because we're always working additional extra hours.
But I think you only work at night. You don't
Well,
work.
it really depends on the program.
You have the perks as well. You've just interviewed David Cameron, which I'm really impressed with. So you get
James Cameron.
James Cameron, sorry, David Cameron. I'm thinking of my Prime Minister.
That's David Beckham, right?
Yeah, David. I'm really confused. James Cameron, the director. I mean, that's not a bad job. That must be pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
you have the
That's an
opportunity.
exciting experience, but
Yeah.
you know sometimes you don't really always get those exciting guests.
You get guys like us.
You make the show interesting, thanks to you. But I'm not quite sure. And basically, they're saying because they do not get high pays here, broadcasters. But
I
still,
don't know.
mean,
You know better.
even if when we're talking about radio, but radio in the United States is still big.
Radio's big. It's same
Yeah.
in UK where I come from.
Yeah, but in China, it might be not that same picture. Let's move on to the next one. Waiter, waitress.
Yeah, that's a difficult one.
That could be
That's really
a
difficult.
similar
Same
picture in China.
situation in
You know,
China.
this is in America. Now, in America, a waiter or waitress lives off tips.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Their salaries are very small, and they all live off tips. So one thing I really don't like about North America is it's so confusing. You never know how much to give. The great thing about China,
Is it 10% or 15% now?
can go even
You
higher
don't
than that.
know.
And if you don't give them enough, they look at you with such distaste. I really don't. Like in England, we
They
generally
hate you.
we don't tip in England, and in China we don't tip. I love that. It's not confusing. You pay the bill, that's it. You get out of there.
Yeah.
In America, it's a $100 bill. How much should I give? $20, $30. You give too much, and then you feel like an idiot. You don't give enough, and they get upset with you. But it's a difficult job for them because they're living off tips, and also, it's just difficult.
Instead of, why don't you think waiter or waitress a good job here?
I think they work very hard, and then in China,
Long
especially,
hours,
the long hours, and then they don't get tips.
And they got
They only
complaints
get
from
the
the customers.
fixed payment.
Yeah, and the thing is
lot of
actually,
complaints.
with waiters and waitresses in China, they don't get any thanks. I mean, in England, we're
Yeah.
so polite. They bring you
Yeah.
your food.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
when I go
no
back to England,
respect
I'm
from
so
the
used to being
customers.
in China that when I go back to England, they bring the food and I don't thank them. My mother gets so upset. She's like, you should thank the waiter. And I'm like, oh,
It's
thank you,
just
thank you very much.
I should say we have different thanking cultures here, and we don't really always say
You don't thank the
you to that many
waiters
people,
or
no.
the waitress.
We still say it. We still say it. but
Sometimes.
Yeah, not that often.
Generally, they get ignored. You
Yeah,
order
they
the
don't
food.
That's
expect
true.
you
They,
to
bring,
thank them.
they don't think you're rude if you don't say thank you, but that's just how it is here. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a kind of a thankless job in China, and also there's no tips here. So,
And they'll have to deal with all the pressure coming from these customers because when they complain, because they are the ones the customers complain to.
that's right.
Okay. Dishwasher, similar story here.
Yeah,
Done lots
same,
of that.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Butcher,
Butcher.
sort of. Not quite sure.
Yeah.
But it seems, the price of pork is going up sometimes. But I'm not quite sure if they're doing it for themselves or doing it for a
They're
company.
professional butchers, you think?
There are. There are professional.
Yeah,
butchers.
So
it's a
the
big
pork price
profession
has
in
nothing to do with these professional butchers.
That's all about the market. Okay. Okay. That's enough for these worst jobs. What about these best jobs?
I'm keen to see this list.
Take a look at the list. We have software engineer,
Oh, that's the worst job.
actuary,
This is all based on money, isn't it? That's the reason.
financial planner earns the most in here.
What's actuary?
It's
Actually, it's
like
in the insurance
Insurance.
industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that? Look, insurance industry is one of the dodgiest businesses in the world. And so you're trying to sell insurance plans to people who don't even understand what they're signing for, and you never really give them the money. I would hate that
That's-
job.
that's what is the good part about it, actually.
Software engineer, you're stuck in front of a computer all day.
That's IT industry.
That's IT. This list is very shallow. It's all based on money.
Let's finish the list first. We have software engineer, we have actuary, we have human resources manager, we have dental hygienist,
Oh,
financial planner, audiologist, occupational therapist.
Oh, that's
Do
quite
we have
nice.
that?
I think they are all
Online
medical
advertising manager, computer systems analyst, and mathematician. So we have quite a few occupations related to this IT industry. We have this software engineer. We have this
computer system.
online advertising manager and computer systems analyst. And that's pretty much what's happening also in China.
China,
IT
the
is
IT
getting
industry.
bigger these days.
I look at that list and I'm really depressed. I mean, dentists are some of the most depressed people on earth, you know, because nobody likes them. None of their customers like them. Everybody gets terrified to see them. In fact, they have a very high suicide rate amongst dentists in Europe, believe it or not. Software engineer in front of a computer all these jobs, it's all based on how much money you get paid. There's nothing really creative about these jobs. I mean, for me, I much prefer the bottom of the list.
But online advertising manager, that could be a very creative job.
Well, it's a management position. I don't know.
It's not creative.
It's
They
not
don't
really
need to, actually, they don't need to create the advertisement. They only place it when they get paid.
So it's the PR agencies who got
Who
to
is
do the
creative?
job.
Yeah.
All right. Now let's take a break first and get down to all these details of these 10 best jobs and tell us what you know about the best jobs in China. You're watching Crossover. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Crossover. So the 10 best jobs. That was a list in the U.S. So do we have any, all the jobs that could be the good jobs in China listed also in that list?
I would say there's a lot, the top list, the bottom list really wasn't applicable to China, I would say. A lot of jobs that really don't go here. But this top list is, you look at a lot of university students now, they all want to get into a lot of these roles. Why? Because the money's good, So it's
what's wrong with that then?
Well, for me, I think, it's a very shallow pursuit. It's just like you're just going after money. So you're going to end up in a job that you don't even like, right? So you have to weigh it up. What would you rather do? Something that makes you happy or something that just gives you a lot of money that you don't really enjoy? And now for me, I'm a very passionate person. I wouldn't do any of these jobs. I don't like the look of any of them. I mean, the money's good, but I simply wouldn't do them. You only get one shot at life.
But the thing is, I mean, with all these graduates in China, especially when they first or freshly graduated from these universities, they're so much worried about their survival.
That's right.
Especially living in these big cities. So if they're looking for all these good money jobs, then it's only understandable.
Yeah.
But maybe the next step would be, hey, maybe I don't have to push myself that far. Maybe I can just take back a little bit to see whether this is the job that makes me happy.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, you have people, I have a brother, who's, I say my father. My father was in the tobacco industry, and I think he never really liked it that much, but he saw it as a way out, that he would work really hard for 20, 30 years, and then he would end up with
Retire.
a lot of money, and then he could retire. And that was his thinking on it, and I guess you've got to respect that in many ways, because he had a big family like I do.
But he can also choose to quit earlier.
He can choose to quit earlier, which with these top jobs, especially, as a financial planner and stuff like that, you can really, make the best of what you're earning, invest it well, and then get out of there quickly. Because
but maybe they like it.
Maybe they like it, they do. Maybe they do, but I would say a lot of people in these businesses, they go in purely for the money. They're looking at this right-hand column that says mid-level income, and they're looking at this and I'm going to go for that one because it's a financial planner, it's $104,000, dollars. It's not really thinking about what they're passionate about.
So, Stel, what is your impression? Because I guess in your company you've also got some fresh graduates, say, from these universities. And what is your impression of their career planning, say?
I think they also, many of them also will go after the money because this is quite, realistic, practical way of thinking. Because, living in big cities, especially like in Beijing or Shanghai, the housing, how expensive it is. So if you want to have a place to live in like Beijing, you have to make a lot of money. So usually a job that can pay you well will be a job maybe you don't like it, but it's just...
You'll take it.
Yeah, you will take it.
But, I mean, there is also a different life philosophy over here, say. This might not be a perfect job for me, but it's good money. So what I see it is, I mean, I'm only working here professionally, but I will have my life enjoyment actually after work.
What I would have as number one above all of this would be entrepreneur. There's nothing like being an entrepreneur, having your own business, dictating your own future and creating new things. I mean, that for me is the ultimate life, rather than having to always look down the option of, I have to get a job, I have to get a job. What about starting something? For me, that's the, that's the big
also, I
buzz.
feel strange why entrepreneur is not listed here.
Well, because essentially it's not a job, right?
It's not a job.
Right?
It's not a job.
It's a choice. It's off this list. Here, it's about joining companies.
What I'm surprised to see is I don't see lawyers in here.
Lawyers. Yeah,
It seems lawyers are big.
we all think that lawyers are very well, paid in the United States.
They are.
But why
Why are
not
they not on the
listed
list?
here?
Because I think everybody knows that being a lawyer is a terrible job. I know
Why?
so many people who graduated from law
So
school.
it's not only about payments.
Yeah, maybe there's some super big salaries that are further down the list, but because they're just so difficult to do. I mean, lawyer, I think, is one of those particularly tough jobs. Really long hours. Also doing things and protecting people you really don't like. I mean, it can be a difficult job.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're doing a lot of things that you probably don't want to do.
That's called professionalism. And what about the mathematician? It's been listed actually as one of the top 10 here.
I don't understand why. That's why.
Because well, once again, we're talking about $10,000 US annually.
Because of the money?
I mean, a
Or,
mathematician
I don't know.
is, every day, everything's about numbers these days, right? Controlling people, looking at figures, analysts. That could be an analyst, couldn't it, instead of a mathematician? It's all about knowing the numbers. And once you know the numbers, then you can get the best possible answer, But as a mathematician, you can also be creative, right? I mean, there's mathematicians who are coming up with all kinds of new theories, things like that are very creative.
But I don't really see the same picture here in China.
In China, no.
mathematicians. Because I guess
China-
most of these mathematicians, they'll be working in those academies.
Academies. So in China, I
Universities,
think
yeah.
organizations like that, like the Academy for Social Science or
For sciences,
for sciences,
Academy of Sciences.
I think that the salary is not high at all, and also I think they have also the pressure.
I think this has just been worded in Korea. I think mathematician can encompass a lot of jobs, especially in IT. A lot of mathematicians go into IT, to look at numbers, especially with search engines and things like that. So I think.
But the average picture with all these research fellows in China, I guess they're facing the same situation over here. They're not that well paid. Well, at the same time, they're still there to face all the pressure that everyone else is facing. Because they all live in these big cities. Maybe sometimes they'll get these allowances from the universities of different categories. But once again, I wouldn't. Lots of people.
Yeah,
would
I always
not,
hear that those researchers they have the problem of getting funding for their research.
That's right. Yeah, they do a lot.